The massive ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. They were dark and sleek, like giant metal sharks floating among the clouds. Admiral Kriegstahl stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue planet below. His yellow eyes studied the world that would soon belong to the Zephyrian Empire. Such a small world, he said to his second-in-command. And yet they think they can resist us. For 3 weeks, the Zephyrian fleet had watched Earth from the shadows. They saw the humans fighting each other in small wars. They saw cities full of people who seemed to care more about their feelings than about being strong. The aliens counted the human weapons and ships. Everything they saw told them the same thing. These creatures would be easy to defeat. Commander. Veltar, the fleet's chief scientist, studied the data on his screen. The humans had some impressive technology, but they used it in strange ways. They built hospitals instead of more weapons. They sent food to their enemies during wars. They even had laws about how to fight that made no sense to the Zephyrians. Admiral, Veltar said, the humans behave in ways I do not understand. They seem to hold back their strength. Kriegstahl laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. They hold back because they are weak. When we show them real power, they will surrender immediately. High above Earth, on the space station New Horizon, Commander Jake Murphy watched the alien ships through his telescope. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had fought in 3 wars, but he preferred talking to fighting. The station's crew moved quietly around him, preparing for what might come next. "Sir," said Lieutenant Carol Davis, "the alien ships are moving into attack position around our major cities." Murphy nodded slowly. He had been expecting this. Earth's leaders had known about the alien fleet for weeks. They had powerful weapons, hidden throughout the solar system, that could destroy the invaders in minutes. But President Helen Davis had given clear orders. Try to make peace first. "Open a communication channel," Murphy said. "Let's see if they want to talk." The aliens responded quickly. Admiral Kriegstahl's face appeared on the main screen. He was tall and thin, with yellow eyes and gray skin. When he spoke, his voice was cold and proud. "Humans of Earth," Kriegstahl said, "I am Admiral Kriegstahl of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and we will allow some of you to live as our servants. Resist, and we will destroy your cities one by one." Murphy looked at the alien commander for a long moment. Then he smiled, the kind of gentle smile a teacher might give to a confused student. "Admiral Kriegstahl," Murphy said, "welcome to our solar system. My name is Jake Murphy. Instead of fighting, why don't we sit down and talk? Maybe we can work something out that benefits both our peoples." On the Zephyrian flagship, the bridge crew looked at each other in surprise. They had expected fear, anger, or desperate pleading. Instead, this human seemed genuinely interested in being friends. "You offer to negotiate?" Kriegstahl asked. "You realize we have enough firepower to turn your planet into dust?" "I'm sure you do," Murphy replied calmly. "But we'd rather find a peaceful solution. Earth has a lot to offer. We've learned many things that might interest your people. Why don't you send a representative to meet with our diplomats?" Kriegstahl ended the communication and turned to his officers. "Did you hear that? They want to negotiate. They're so afraid of fighting that they're already trying to give us what we want without a battle." Commander Veltar frowned at his instruments. Something about the human response bothered him, but he couldn't figure out what it was. Down on Earth in the Global Defense Center, General Lisa Carter watched the conversation on her monitors. She was a short woman with black hair and sharp eyes. Her fingers drummed impatiently on her desk as she listened to Murphy's gentle words. "Ma'am," said Colonel Tony Martinez, "our defense systems are ready. We could end this invasion in 20 minutes. Carter nodded. Earth's real military strength was hidden throughout the solar system. Orbital weapons platforms disguised as satellites, ships that looked like asteroids, energy shields that could protect entire continents. The aliens had no idea what they were really facing. "The president wants to try diplomacy first," Carter said. "But stay ready. If these aliens hurt innocent people, we'll show them what humans are really capable of." Dr. Peter Blake arrived at the space station 2 days later. He was Earth's best diplomat, a man who had ended wars with nothing but words and patience. He brought gifts for the aliens, art, music, and samples of Earth's finest foods. He genuinely hoped to make friends with these visitors from the stars. The meeting took place in the station's main conference room. Admiral Crixtall came with 2 guards, expecting to dictate terms of surrender. Instead, he found a table set for dinner, with Dr. Blake waiting to serve him tea. "Admiral," Blake said with a warm smile, "please sit down. I've prepared some of our finest dishes for you to try. I thought we could talk about ways our peoples might help each other." Crixtall sat down slowly, confused by the humans' behavior. These creatures acted as if they were equals, as if they had something to bargain with. It made no sense. "Dr. Blake," the Admiral said, "you seem to misunderstand the situation. We are here to conquer your world, not to make treaties." Blake poured tea for both of them. "I understand you think that's what you want to do, but consider this. Wouldn't it be better to have Earth as a willing ally instead of a conquered enemy? We could share our knowledge, our art, our culture. We could explore the galaxy together." For 3 hours they talked. Blake showed the Admiral pictures of Earth's greatest achievements. He played music that brought tears to human eyes. He spoke of peace and friendship and cooperation, and with every word, Admiral Crixtall became more convinced that humans were weak, emotional creatures who could be easily controlled. When the meeting ended, Crixtall returned to his ship with a clear plan. These humans were so desperate to avoid fighting that they would give up everything to preserve their comfortable lives. The invasion would be easier than he had dreamed. But as the alien shuttle flew back to the flagship, Dr. Blake stood at the station's observation deck and watched it go. His gentle smile faded, replaced by something colder and harder. "Recording message for President Davis," he said quietly into his communicator. "The aliens have refused all offers of peaceful cooperation. They interpret our desire for diplomacy as weakness. I recommend we move to Phase 2 of the contact protocol." Far below, on Earth, General Carter received the message and nodded grimly. She had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but she had been prepared for this possibility all along. "Attention all units," she said into her command radio. "The aliens have chosen to be enemies instead of friends. Continue defensive preparations. When they attack our civilians, we'll show them the difference between human kindness and human wrath." The die was cast. Earth had offered friendship and been rejected. Now the aliens would learn why that had been a mistake. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, watching the alien ships move closer to Earth. She was a calm woman with brown eyes and steady hands. Behind her, 24 human ships waited in perfect formation. The aliens thought they were seeing Earth's entire space fleet. They had no idea these were just the ships Earth wanted them to see. "Captain," said her communications officer, "the alien advance force is 3 hours away from lunar orbit." Rodriguez nodded. "Open a channel to the lead alien ship." The alien commander appeared on her screen. He was younger than Admiral Crixtall, with the same yellow eyes, but less patience. His name was Subcommander Zechary, and he was eager to prove himself in battle. "Human vessel," Zechary said with a sneer. "Move aside or be destroyed. We claim this system for the Zephyrian Empire." Rodriguez smiled the same gentle smile that Commander Murphy had used. "Subcommander, I'm Captain Amy Rodriguez. I'm here to offer you and your ship safe passage back to your fleet. You don't need to fight today." Zechary laughed. "Safe passage? You have 25 small ships. I have 50 battle cruisers. You should be begging for mercy." "I'm not begging," Rodriguez said calmly. "I'm offering you a chance to leave without anyone getting hurt. This is your warning. Please take it." The alien commander cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. "Foolish humans. Prepare to fire on their lead ship. Once we destroy it, the others will run away crying." Back on Earth, Dr. Peter Blake sat across from 3 Zephyrian diplomats in a conference room deep underground. The room was comfortable, with soft chairs and warm lighting. Blake had spent hours preparing charts and videos to show the aliens what humanity was really capable of. "Gentlemen," Blake said, spreading out historical documents on the table. I want to show you something important about my people. The lead diplomat, called Mortex, looked bored. Dr. Blake, we have already decided to conquer your world. These talks are pointless. Blake ignored him and pressed a button. The room's walls became giant screens showing footage from human history. The first images showed ancient battles, thousands of warriors fighting with swords and spears. These are my ancestors, Blake said quietly. They fought each other for thousands of years. They learned to make better weapons, better strategies, better ways to win wars. The next images showed more modern conflicts. Tanks rolling across battlefields, ships firing massive guns, planes dropping bombs that could destroy entire cities. This is what we became good at, Blake continued. We got so good at war that we could destroy our own planet, so we made a choice. The final images showed something different. Humans working together to build space stations, scientists sharing discoveries, former enemies becoming friends. We chose to stop fighting each other and start building together, Blake said. But we never forgot how to fight. We just decided to use that knowledge differently. Mortex shifted uncomfortably in his chair. You show us your primitive wars to frighten us? Our weapons are far beyond anything in these images. Blake smiled. Sadly. Are they? Let me show you what we built after we stopped fighting each other. He pressed another button. The screens now showed Earth's hidden defenses, orbital weapons platforms that could destroy asteroids, energy shields that could protect entire continents, ships that moved faster than light itself. We built all of this in the last 50 years, Blake said softly. We could have used it to conquer other worlds. Instead, we used it to explore and learn. But it's still there if we need it. The Zephyrian diplomats stared at the screens in shock. These weapons were centuries ahead of their own technology. This cannot be real, Mortex whispered. It's all real, Blake said. And it's all waiting for my government's orders. But we don't want to use it. We'd rather be your friends. In space, the first shots of the war were about to be fired. Sub-Commander Zachary gave the order to attack Captain Rodriguez's ship. 50 alien weapons fired at once, sending streams of deadly energy across the darkness. Rodriguez watched the attack coming and shook her head sadly. Activate defensive systems, she ordered. A shimmering barrier appeared around the human ships. The alien weapons struck the barrier and simply vanished like raindrops hitting a window. The human fleet wasn't even scratched. Return fire, Rodriguez said quietly. Disable their weapons only. Try not to hurt anyone. The human ships fired, back with beams of blue light. Each beam was perfectly aimed, striking only the weapon systems on the alien ships. Within seconds, Zachary's entire fleet was helpless, floating in space with no way to fight back. Rodriguez opened communications again. Sub-Commander, your weapons are disabled, but your ships are fine. Your crews are unhurt. This is what we call a gentle warning. Please return to your main fleet and tell Admiral Krikstal that Earth wants peace, not war. Zachary stared at his instruments in disbelief. His mighty fleet had been defeated in less than a minute, and the humans had done it without killing a single alien. It made no sense. On Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Steve Barnes worked in a secret command center buried 3 miles underground. He was a quiet man who preferred planning to fighting. Around him, dozens of officers monitored Earth's real defenses. The weapons and systems that could end the alien invasion in minutes. Sir, said one of his assistants, the President has authorized the release of classified information to the alien diplomats. Dr. Blake is showing them our capabilities. Barnes nodded. Good. Maybe when they see what we can really do, they'll change their minds about this invasion. But he wasn't hopeful. In his experience, most bullies didn't stop being bullies until someone hit them back hard enough to make them think twice. Meanwhile, the first Zephyrian ground forces were landing in remote areas around the world. They chose places far from major cities, thinking they could establish bases without being noticed. What they found confused them completely. The aliens landed near a small farming town in Montana. They expected the humans to run away in terror. Instead, the local doctor, an elderly man named Bill Harrison, walked up to their landing site carrying a medical bag. You folks look like you might need some help, Dr. Harrison said calmly. "That's a pretty rough landing you had there. Anyone hurt?" The alien soldiers looked at each other in bewilderment. 3 of them had indeed been injured in the crash landing. Dr. Harrison spent the next hour treating their wounds and offering them food and water. Similar scenes played out around the world. Human civilians approached the confused alien soldiers with offers of help. They brought bandages for the wounded, food for the hungry, and blankets for those who were cold. The aliens had prepared for battle, but they had no idea how to handle kindness. Sub-Commander Zekri limped back to the main fleet with his disabled ships. He found Admiral Krixtal waiting for him in the flagship's hangar bay. "Report," Krixtal demanded. "Sir," Zekri said shakily, "the humans, they have weapons we've never seen before. They defeated my entire fleet without even trying, and they could have destroyed us, but they chose not to." Krixtal's yellow eyes narrowed. "You're telling me that 25 human ships defeated 50 of our battle cruisers?" "Yes, sir. Their defensive systems made our weapons useless. Their return fire was so precise it only hit what they wanted to hit. They disabled us completely, and then offered us safe passage home." Commander Veltar, who had been listening nearby, stepped forward. "Admiral, I'm receiving similar reports from our ground forces. The humans are offering medical aid to our wounded soldiers. They're treating our people with kindness." Krixtal slammed his fist against the wall. "This makes no sense. If they have such powerful weapons, why don't they use them? If they can defeat us so easily, why do they keep offering us mercy?" Veltar looked at his datapad, studying the reports from around Earth. Slowly, a terrible understanding began to form in his mind. "Admiral," he said quietly, "what if we've been wrong about the humans? What if their kindness isn't weakness? What if it's something else?" But Krixtal wasn't listening. He was already planning his next attack, convinced that the humans were playing some kind of elaborate game. He would show them that the Zephyrian Empire wasn't fooled by their tricks. He had no idea that he was about to make the worst mistake of his life. Admiral Krixtal had made his decision. The humans had embarrassed him long enough with their strange behavior and hidden weapons. It was time to show them what real war looked like. "All ships, prepare for full assault," he commanded from his flagship's bridge. "Target their major cities. We will break their spirit with one crushing blow." Commander Veltar looked up from his instruments with worry in his yellow eyes. "Admiral, perhaps we should reconsider. The humans have shown capabilities far beyond our initial estimates." "Silence!" Krixtal snapped. "They had their chance to surrender. Now they will learn the price of defying the Zephyrian Empire." Across Earth's solar system, 1,000 alien ships moved into attack formation, their weapons charged with deadly energy as they approached the blue planet. This time, there would be no mercy, no gentle warnings. This time, they would hit the humans so hard that resistance would become impossible. But as the alien fleet drew closer to Earth, something impossible began to happen. More human ships appeared, first dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They seemed to materialize out of empty space as if they had been hiding behind invisible curtains. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, now surrounded by the largest fleet in human history. Ships of every size and design floated in perfect formation around Earth. Some looked like peaceful exploration vessels. Others were clearly built for war. All of them had been waiting, hidden by technology the aliens had never imagined. "Captain," her communications officer said, "we're receiving a message from President Davis." Rodriguez nodded. "Put her through." President Helen Davis appeared on screens throughout the human fleet and on every alien ship in the system. She was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and tired eyes. She had hoped this day would never come, but she had been preparing for it all her life. "People of Earth and visitors from the Zephyrian Empire," Davis began, her voice calm but firm. "For weeks we have tried to find a peaceful solution to this conflict. We have offered friendship, cooperation, and mutual respect. We have shown restraint even when attacked. We have treated your wounded and fed your hungry. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kriegstall watched the human president with growing unease. Behind her, he could see military officers and advisors, all watching him with the same patient expression he had seen on every human face. "But," Davis continued, "our patience has limits. Admiral Kriegstall, I am speaking directly to you now. You have one final opportunity to withdraw your forces and leave our system in peace. If you proceed with this attack, you will discover why humanity survived every challenge our violent history could throw at us." The president paused, letting her words sink in. "We are not weak because we choose peace. We are strong because we can choose war when peace fails. This is your last warning." Kriegstall cut off the transmission and turned to his fleet commanders. "Arrogant humans. They think their hidden ships frighten us. All vessels, commence the attack." The alien fleet opened fire on Earth's cities. Beams of destructive energy lanced down toward millions of innocent people. For a moment, it seemed like the planet would burn. Then the energy beams hit barriers of pure light that surrounded each city. The alien weapons, powerful enough to crack mountains, simply vanished against Earth's defensive shields. The cities below remained untouched, their people safe behind technology that made alien science look like children's toys. "Impossible," Kriegstall whispered. "Those shields shouldn't exist." In the city of Denver, Marine Colonel Tony Martinez coordinated the civilian evacuation with practiced efficiency. He was a big man with steady hands and a calm voice that never changed, whether he was ordering coffee or preparing for battle. "All civilians to designated safe areas," he announced over the city's communication system. "This is not a drill, but there is no need to panic. Our defenses are holding." What the colonel didn't mention was that the shields protecting Denver could have been activated weeks ago. Earth's leaders had chosen to leave them down, hoping the aliens would see the gesture of trust and choose peace instead of war. At the same time, Dr. Nancy Foster worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps. She was a small woman with bright eyes and hands that never stopped moving. For 20 years, she had been Earth's leading expert on defensive technology. "Get me a direct line to the alien flagship," she told her assistant. When Admiral Kriegstall appeared on her screen, Dr. Foster held up a small device that looked like a simple metal box. "Admiral," she said quietly, "this is a planetary defense disruptor. One of these devices can disable every electronic system on a planet the size of yours. We built 12 of them 15 years ago, then locked them away and hoped we would never need them." Kriegstall stared at the device. "You're lying. No such weapon exists." Foster pressed a button on the device. On the alien flagship, every light flickered and every screen went dark for exactly 3 seconds. When the power returned, every alien officer was staring at their instruments in terror. "That was set to the lowest possible setting and aimed at only your ship," Foster said calmly. "Imagine what it would do to your entire fleet at full power. Or better yet, don't imagine it. Just leave our solar system and never come back." But the moment that changed everything happened far from the great fleets and powerful weapons. It happened on a small medical ship called the Mercy, floating in Earth's orbit. The Mercy was a hospital ship, clearly marked with red crosses and broadcasting medical signals on all frequencies. Inside, human doctors and nurses worked to save lives, including the lives of Zephyrian soldiers who had been wounded in the earlier skirmishes. Dr. Linda Walsh was operating on a young alien soldier when the attack began. The soldier had been hurt in a shuttle crash, and Dr. Walsh had spent hours trying to save his life. She was so focused on her work that she barely noticed when the ship began to shake. "Doctor," called Nurse Kevin Park from across the medical bay, "we're under attack." Dr. Walsh looked up to see alien fighters strafing the medical ship. The Mercy had no weapons, no shields, no way to defend itself. It was clearly marked as a non-combatant vessel protected by every rule of civilized warfare. The alien fighters didn't care. Energy beams tore through the ship's hull. Nurse Park died instantly, cut down while trying to protect his patients. Dr. Walsh threw herself over the wounded alien soldier she had been treating, using her own body to shield him from the explosion that followed. Captain Rodriguez watched the attack on the Mercy from her command ship. She saw the medical personnel dying while trying to save alien lives. She saw the hospital ship breaking apart in space, its pieces floating away like broken dreams. Something cold and hard settled in Rodriguez's chest. She had been a soldier for 20 years, but she had always believed in fighting with honor. She had always believed that some things were sacred even in war. The aliens had just shown her that they believed in nothing sacred at all. Communications, she said, her voice colder than space itself. Get me President Davis. When the president appeared on her screen, Rodriguez saw her own anger reflected in the older woman's face. Ma'am, Rodriguez said formally, requesting permission to engage enemy forces with full authorization. President Davis nodded slowly. Permission granted, Captain. Show them what happens when humans stop being nice. Rodriguez turned to her, fleet commanders. Around Earth, thousands of human ships received the same message at the same time. All vessels, Rodriguez announced. You are authorized to engage with extreme prejudice. The aliens have fired on a medical vessel and killed non-combatant personnel. The rules of engagement are now suspended. For the first time in the conflict, the human fleet moved to attack. Admiral Krixtal watched the human ships advance and felt something he had never experienced before in battle. Genuine fear. The humans were moving with a precision and purpose that spoke of capabilities he had never imagined. Sir, one of his officers said shakily, perhaps we should withdraw and regroup. But it was too late for that. The humans had given the aliens every chance to choose peace. They had offered friendship, shown mercy, and tried to find a solution that would save lives on both sides. The aliens had chosen to attack a hospital ship instead. Now they would learn the difference between human kindness and human wrath. And Commander Veltar, watching the human fleet approach with terrible purpose, finally understood the truth that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The humans hadn't been unable to fight back. They had been choosing not to. That choice had just ended. The change in the human fleet was immediate and terrifying. Ships that had moved slowly and carefully now struck like lightning. Weapons that had been gentle now became precise instruments of destruction. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy they had never truly seen before. Captain Amy Rodriguez watched her tactical display as the human fleet moved into perfect attack formation. Every ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. They had been practicing this dance for decades, hoping they would never need to perform it. Target alien weapon systems first, Rodriguez ordered. Disable their shields second. Destroy their engines third. Try to leave their life support intact when possible. Even in their anger, the humans followed rules. Even when they stopped being nice, they tried not to be monsters. The first human attack lasted exactly 47 seconds. When it ended, half of Admiral Krixtal's fleet was floating helplessly in space. Their weapons were gone, their shields were down, and their engines were dead. They were completely at the mercy of an enemy they had fatally underestimated. Sub-Commander Zekri, who had been so confident just hours before, now stared at his broken instruments in horror. His ship had been hit 17 times by human weapons. He couldn't even see. Every shot had been perfectly placed to destroy exactly what the humans wanted to destroy and nothing more. How? He whispered to his communications officer. How are they so precise? The officer had no answer. The humans were fighting with a level of skill and coordination that seemed impossible. It was as if every human ship could read the minds of all the others. On Earth, Colonel Tony Martinez led the ground counteroffensive with the same deadly precision his people showed in space. The Zephyrian soldiers who had landed around the world suddenly found themselves facing human troops who moved like ghosts and struck like thunder. In the forests of Montana, where Dr. Bill Harrison had treated wounded aliens just days before, Martinez's soldiers surrounded an alien base. But instead of attacking immediately, Martinez walked up to the alien commander carrying a white flag. "I'm Colonel Martinez," he said calmly. "You have 60 seconds to surrender and lay down your weapons. If you do, your soldiers will be treated well and return to your fleet when this is over." The alien commander, a veteran warrior named Corlix, laughed at the human. "One human against 200 Zephyrian soldiers? You must be insane." Martinez checked his watch. 50 seconds now. Corlix ordered his soldiers to fire. Energy beams lanced out toward the lone human figure. But Martinez was no longer there. He had vanished like smoke, leaving only empty air where he had been standing. The alien soldiers looked around in confusion. Then the forest exploded into action. Human soldiers appeared from everywhere and nowhere, moving through the trees like deadly shadows. In less than 2 minutes, every alien weapon was destroyed and every alien soldier was on the ground, stunned but alive. Corlix found himself zip-tied and sitting against a tree while Martinez stood over him, completely unhurt. "How?" the alien commander gasped. "We had you surrounded. We fired at you with everything we had." Martinez helped him sit up more comfortably. "We've been fighting wars on this planet for thousands of years," he said quietly. "We got very good at it. We just decided to use those skills for building instead of destroying." He gestured to his soldiers, who were giving first aid to wounded aliens and sharing their water with prisoners. "We could have killed all of you in the first 10 seconds. We chose not to. That's the difference between us and you." Back in space, Dr. Nancy Foster was having a very different conversation with Admiral Crixtall. The alien commander had demanded to speak with someone in authority, still believing he could negotiate from a position of strength. "Admiral," Foster said, holding up different devices from her laboratory, "I want to show you what humans are capable of when we stop holding back." She picked up a small crystal that glowed with inner light. "This is a stellar disruptor. It can make stars burn hotter or colder. We could turn your home sun into a red giant or freeze it into a white dwarf." Crixtall's yellow eyes widened with fear. "Such power cannot exist." Foster set down the crystal and picked up what looked like a simple metal sphere. "This is a gravity manipulator. We can create black holes, move planets, or tear apart solar systems. We built it to help us explore space faster. It could also destroy your entire empire." She placed the sphere carefully on her desk and looked directly at the alien admiral. "We have weapons that could crack your homeworld like an egg. We have technology that could erase your entire species from existence. We could have used any of these things the moment your fleet arrived." Foster leaned forward, her voice becoming softer and more dangerous. "Do you know why we didn't?" Crixtall shook his head, unable to speak. "Because we hoped you were better than this," Foster said sadly. "We hoped you were people we could talk to, learn from, maybe even become friends with. We were wrong." The final blow to alien morale came from an unexpected source. Commander Veltar, the Zephyrian scientist who had been studying human behavior, finally understood what he was seeing. "Admiral," he said urgently, breaking into the conversation with Dr. Foster, "we have to stop this attack immediately." Crixtall turned on him angrily. "Have you lost your mind, Veltar?" "No, sir, I've found it." Veltar pulled up data on his screen, showing human military formations and tactics. "Admiral, we haven't been fighting the human military. We've been fighting their diplomats." The bridge fell silent. Even Dr. Foster stopped talking to listen. "Look at the data," Veltar continued desperately. "Captain Rodriguez is listed as a diplomatic attaché, not a fleet commander. Colonel Martinez is a peace negotiator who learned combat as a backup skill. Dr. Blake, their chief diplomat, has 3 degrees in military strategy." He turned to face his admiral with terror in his eyes. "Sir, every human we've dealt with has been trained in both peace and war. They were hoping to use their peace training. We forced them to use their war training instead." Crixtall stared at the data, slowly understanding what it meant. "You're saying that their real military hasn't even gotten involved yet?" "Correct, sir. These are their teachers, their negotiators, their healers who learn to fight as a secondary profession. Their actual warriors are still waiting for orders." Dr. Foster smiled grimly from the communication screen. "Commander Veltar is very observant. Would you like to meet some of our actual soldiers, Admiral? I can arrange that." Before Crixtall could answer, new contacts appeared on his sensors. Ships began emerging from what looked like empty space around the alien fleet. These vessels were different from the ones they had been fighting. They were sleek, predatory, and moved with a grace that spoke of pure military purpose. "Admiral," Foster said quietly, Meet the Earth Defense Force. These are our real warships, crewed by people who have never done anything but study war. They've been watching this entire conflict, waiting to see if we could solve it peacefully. The new, human ships took positions around the crippled alien fleet. They didn't fire, but their weapons were clearly charged and ready. The message was clear. The aliens were completely surrounded by enemies they couldn't hope to defeat. Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system, speaking to both fleets. Alien vessels, you are defeated. Your weapons are destroyed. Your ships are disabled, and you are outnumbered 50-1 by forces you cannot match. She paused, letting the reality sink in. But we're still willing to let you go home. We'll repair your ships enough for the journey and provide medical care for your wounded. All we ask is that you leave and never come back. In his command chair, Admiral Crixtal looked around at his broken fleet and his terrified officers. He thought about the power the humans had shown him, the mercy they continued to offer even after he had attacked their medical ship. For the EU, first time in his life, the proud admiral realized he was completely and utterly defeated by an enemy who still didn't want to kill him. Commander Veltar was right. They had never been fighting humanity's military. They had been fighting humanity's teachers and diplomats and healers, people who preferred words to weapons but were just as deadly when words failed. The real human military was still waiting, patiently for orders that would never come, because the diplomats had handled the situation themselves. Crixtal closed his eyes and tried to imagine what would have happened if he had accepted humanity's first offer of friendship instead of mistaking their kindness for weakness. That imagining would haunt him for the rest of his very long life. The surrender happened quietly. Admiral Crixtal, his pride broken and his fleet destroyed, spoke the words that ended the shortest war in galactic history. "Human fleet," he said over the open communication channel. "This is Admiral Crixtal of the Zephyrian Empire. We surrender unconditionally." Captain Amy Rodriguez received the message on the bridge of the UES Defender. Around her, the bridge crew remained silent and professional. There was no cheering, no celebration. They had won a war they never wanted to fight. "Admiral," Rodriguez replied, "prepare to receive our medical teams. We'll treat your wounded and repair your ships for the journey home." 3 hours later, Admiral Crixtal found himself on the human flagship, sitting across from Captain Rodriguez in her private cabin. He had expected to be treated as a prisoner. Instead, he was offered tea and comfortable chairs. Rodriguez looked tired. The victory had cost her people she cared about, and that weight showed in her eyes. "Admiral," she said quietly, "why did you attack the medical ship?" Crixtal stared at his hands. I thought it was a trick. I thought you were using it to make us weak, to make us hesitate. I didn't understand that you actually cared about saving lives. Even alien lives? Especially that, Crixtal admitted. In our culture, you only help your own people. Enemies are meant to be destroyed, not healed. When I saw your doctors treating our wounded soldiers, I thought it was some kind of weapon. We didn't understand. Rodriguez poured tea for both of them. It was a weapon in a way. We hoped that if you saw us as people instead of enemies, you might choose to be our friends instead of our conquerors. The alien admiral accepted the tea with shaking hands. We have a saying in our language. The strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. You have shown us that we understood neither strength nor weakness. Dr. Peter Blake arrived on the flagship the next day. He brought with him a document that would change galactic history, the Terran Accords, humanity's proposal for how different species should interact with each other. Blake sat down with Admiral Crixtal and several other alien officers who had survived the brief war. The meeting room was comfortable and well lit, with windows showing the stars beyond. "Gentlemen," Blake began, "we have a choice to make. We can be enemies, or we can be something better." The lead alien diplomat, Mortex, who had dismissed human capabilities just days before, now spoke with new respect. "Dr. Blake, your people have earned the right to dictate terms to us. What do you want?" Blake smiled the same gentle smile he had worn during their first meeting. "The same thing I wanted then. Friendship, cooperation, and peace." The only difference is that now you understand we're offering these things from a position of strength, not weakness." He opened the document and spread it on the table. The Terran Accords are simple. They say that humanity will share our knowledge and technology with any species that approaches us in peace. We'll defend any species that asks for our help against aggression, and we'll treat former enemies as potential friends if they're willing to change. Admiral Crichstall read through the document carefully. "This is generous. After what we did, you still offer us friendship?" "We offer you the chance to earn friendship," Blake corrected. "It will take time to rebuild trust, but we believe that most species, like most people, want to do the right thing when given the chance." On Earth, President Helen Davis addressed the world from the Global Defense Center. Behind her stood representatives from dozens of nations united in their response to the alien threat. "My fellow humans," Davis began, "we have faced our first test as a spacefaring species. We were attacked by beings who mistook our desire for peace as a sign of weakness. We proved them wrong, but we did it without losing ourselves in the process." She gestured to the screens showing alien ships being repaired by human engineers. "Today, former enemies are being helped by the same people they tried to conquer. This is who we are. This is who we choose to remain." Colonel Tony Martinez stood in the forests of Montana, watching human and alien soldiers work together to clean up the battlefield. The alien commander Corlix approached him, moving slowly because of his wounds. "Colonel," the alien said, "my soldiers tell me stories that I find hard to believe. They say your people shared food and medicine with prisoners. They say you treated our wounded before treating your own." Martinez nodded. "That's standard procedure. We help whoever needs help most, regardless of which side they're on." Corlix struggled to understand. "But we were your enemies. We came to conquer your world." "You were my enemies for a few days," Martinez replied. "But the war is over now. Today you're just people who need help getting home." The alien commander watched human medics carefully tending to a wounded Zephyrian soldier. The same care, the same gentle hands that had tried to save lives on the medical ship that his people had destroyed. "How do you do it?" Corlix asked quietly. "How do you find forgiveness for people who hurt you?" Martinez thought for a moment. "Because holding on to anger hurts us more than it hurts you, and because we've learned that most conflicts happen because people don't understand each other, not because they're evil." Commander Veltar became Earth's first alien ambassador. President Davis gave him a simple mission: travel the galaxy and tell other species what he had learned about humanity. His first stop was the Zephyrian homeworld, where he addressed the Empire's ruling council. The Great Hall was filled with hundreds of alien leaders, all eager to hear about the species that had defeated their mighty fleet. "Honored counselors," Veltar began, "I bring you news of a species unlike any we have encountered. They call themselves humans, and they have mastered something we never understood: the ability to choose when to use their power." He activated a holographic display showing the battle statistics. In 47 seconds, they disabled half our fleet. In 2 hours, they could have destroyed every ship we had. In a week, they could have burned our homeworld to ash. The council murmured, in fear and confusion. "Then why didn't they?" asked the High Counselor. "Because they didn't want to," Veltar replied simply. "They offered us friendship first. When we refused and attacked them, they offered us mercy. When we attacked their medical personnel, they offered us justice, swift and precise, but not cruel." He changed the display to show human ships helping repair the Zephyrian fleet. "Even now, after defeating us completely, they help us return home safely. They ask only that we remember this lesson and share it with others." The High Counselor leaned forward in his great chair. "What lesson?" Veltar looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of every leader present. "That strength without wisdom is mere brutality. That kindness without power is mere weakness. But strength guided by wisdom, power tempered by mercy, this is what makes a species truly great." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The humans gave us every opportunity to be their friends. We chose to be their enemies. They showed us the difference between the two choices, and then they gave us the chance to choose again." The message spread quickly through the galaxy. Other species learned about the humans who offered friendship to anyone willing to accept it, but who became terrible enemies to those who preferred conquest to cooperation. Trade routes opened between Earth and peaceful civilizations. Scientific exchanges flourished. Art and music traveled between worlds that had never known each other existed. But the most important change was in how species approached each other. The Terran Accords became the model for interstellar relations. Instead of assuming the worst about strangers, civilizations began assuming the best. Admiral Krixtal returned to his homeworld a changed being. He spent the rest of his life teaching young Zephyrian officers about the humans he had underestimated. His favorite lesson was always the same. Remember the medical ship Mercy, he would tell them. Remember how they treated our wounded even while we were attacking them. Remember how they could have destroyed us all but chose to save us instead. That is the difference between a conqueror and a civilization, and in the depths of space, human ships continued their patient voyages to distant stars, carrying the same message to every species they encountered. We come in peace. We offer friendship. We hope you will choose to accept it. But if you choose, otherwise we are ready for that too. The galaxy had learned that humans meant every word of that message, and for the first time in galactic history, most species chose friendship instead of war. Not because they had to, but because they finally understood the difference between strength and wisdom, between power and civilization. The humans had taught them well.